Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Good evening, Rush Nation. I'm back. It's another show. It is just me. There is no stocks. But that's fine. From next week, we've got plenty of guests. So you only have to listen to my dulcet tones one more time. Apologies for, there were some issues with uploading the podcast last week. It's available on YouTube. Trying to get those resolved ASAP. Hopefully it'll be live tonight. Basically, it's been kicked off twice, but we are where we are. Doesn't matter. We are here. We're here for a show this evening. It's going to be relatively short, probably about 20-30 minutes. Last one of my 30s. I turn 40 next week, so will be the last show of my 30s. The next show I'll do, we have an amazing guest next Thursday, so tune in for that. I will get it up on the YouTube a little bit ahead of time. Lots of stuff going on here at 5 Yard Rush. We have the FFCC load ups and tournament running, so please do sign up to that. We're very close to £40,000 overall lifetime. I'd love to do that on my 40th birthday. A couple of £100 short, so let's keep pushing. Let's get some more sign-ups in there. It'd be great to have more and more people sign up to the FFCC. If you don't know what this is, go look at our pinned tweet on X at 5 Yard Rush. Next, the Fantasy Football Playbook. Fantasy Football Playbook is going to be live in Amazon any moment, any minute. I shared some links in the previous video that I did today, just talking about what is in the book, and part of that will be projections, which I'm going to go through today, so you can have a look and see what my current feelings are on players, just based on what we know and all of this sort of good stuff. So, but you'll get access to this projection sheet, so you can actually go ahead and make your own projections and use mine for any wacky scoring league. So you can buy the Fantasy Football Playbook. A couple of places to buy it. Over on Patreon, that's available now. You can buy that at the low cost price of £7.50-ish. It's in dollars, so it's about that sort of figure. Unless you're on iOS, it charges more. There's nothing I can do about that. That's Steve Jobs' benevolent fund has to pick up some money on top. And then you've got, but that's the PDF version. If you want the paperback, it is going to be available on Amazon. So feel free to check that out on Amazon. Just search for Fantasy Football Playbook or 5 Yard Rush. Fantasy Football Playbook 2025 preferably should get you there a little bit sooner, and you can purchase that. In the back is an appendix section. It's going to have a lot of resources in there, some QR codes to a folder, and in this folder is going to be this. And this is the projection sheet. So this projection sheet has got a few different settings in here, where basically you can create your custom scoring. Now, if you notice, I've just set it for regular PPR. Then you notice tight end PPR is 1. It's just to allow for the premium. So you can just trigger that, but it has to be set at 1 if you're doing PPR for everything else. That's not bonus. That's just regular PPR. It's got IDP in here. I've got IDP projections. So it gives you a good feeling of where we are and what we do here. Some of these fields you can ignore, because they were set up for old people and old sheets, etc. But if we come into this now, this is my projections for 2025 and where I see the world and the landscape in 2025. Right now, I've even got kickers in here. I've got DSTs in here. I've got loads of stuff in here. There's absolutely loads in here. So I think it's about over 1,000 players in here, or close to, including the DST. So there's a lot of information in here. This is how I see the QB landscape as it stands right now. Josh Allen is my QB1, followed by Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Shouldn't really shock anyone. They might change the orders, but that's kind of where I have those. I have Jaden Daniels at 4, Baker Mayfield at 5. They're my top 5, breaking the 300-point barrier this year. And then just under that is sort of a tier of Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray. They kind of sit next to each other. I'm expecting a bit of a bounce back from Kyler Murray this year. I'd see him potentially getting up there. And the same sort of bounce back with CJ Stroud. But this next tier is pretty big. So you can see here we've got quite a lot of quarterbacks separated by just sort of, if you take these ones here, they're separated, or these here are separated by just 20 points. So it's not really a great deal. So you're not really getting a lot of difference here. I have CJ Stroud at the top of that, followed by Mahomes, Drake May, who I think is going to benefit from some changes here. But Bo Nix, I can kind of see those interchangeable, really. Again, look how close I have them. So, I'm not pounding the table for any of these guys in here. Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, JJ McCarthy. And if people are going, oh, well, I've got so-and-so here and I've got so-and-so here. Again, I just want to revert you to the points differential. It is so small. These are 4 points per touchdown, by the way. You can change them to 6. That might change some of this landscape a little bit. You can put interceptions in here. That might also change it a little bit. I've got interceptions at -1. So, again, this whole landscape of, you've got to rank them. I can't believe you've got Mahomes so low. Yeah, but I don't have him that much lower than kind of anywhere else. And, Trevor Lawrence could get a bit of a renaissance here. He could jump up this field. JJ McCarthy, again, I have them right next to each other. People ask me, I probably would take the upside on Lawrence in a new scheme with a new offensive coordinator who we know in Cohen. Liam Cohen did a great job with the Bucs last year. There's some upside here. Again, we say JJ McCarthy. These can go upwards. They're not wedded to the point. If you really want to pound the table on any of these guys, that's absolutely fine. You go ahead and pound that table. I'm not here to contradict that. This is just where I kind of have it. This might need a bit of a change. Is Anthony Richardson. He could be injured, and that could really affect his chances of keeping that job. Does have Derek Carr in here. He will come out of these, and Tyler Show will get pretty much all of this work. That's kind of how I see this world going, but that's fine. These will get updated early next week in line with the release. So, and you'll get the newest version. So, it will change pretty quickly. And you see here, I'm not really projecting Jackson Dart to do much this year. So that's where I am with the quarterbacks here. You're going to get an opportunity to go through and grab these with the playbook, and you'll be able to see these or on Patreon as well. You can join our Patreon and get access to both. Next, I've got sort of the running backs here. So here, by the way, if patiently why is Derrick Henry the only one here? It's because he does throw the odd touchdown pass here and there. So I've got that in here, him throwing a touchdown this year. So that's where I've got it in my projections. He's done it the last few years. This is kind of where I am with my running backs as it stands. Maybe I have Hampton a little high, but I feel pretty okay with where he is right now. I have Barkley, McCaffrey leading the way, Jonathan Taylor up there. I'm expecting a huge bounce back in that offense there. Derrick Henry. Again, I've got Alvin Kamara up there again. He just seems to be getting better. Bucky Irving breaking into that top 12 this year. Still got Kyron Williams, Ashton Jeanty. People can look at me and think that's a bit low. I'm just always a little conservative on rookies. But Mario Hampton is right up there as well. And then, you got your RB2s here. This is where it starts to sort of cluster a little bit. We got Cooks, Jacobs kind of neck and neck here, and Joe Mixon. These three all within a point of each other. Breece Hall just under that. Dave Montgomery in his role, James Conner. And you've got all of these players. And you got the third rookie here, Trayvon Henderson, I think could have a good season getting going here. You're starting to see again some more of these rookies starting to show up a little bit here, getting into the back end of QB2, QB3 range. Again, Scatterbo and Tracy kind of back to back here. You've got here Rashad White taking a bit of a dive this year, as with Ramondre Stevenson, Travis Etienne. These are players I think could potentially take a dive. Now, I've been advising the patrons to take Travis Etienne because I think he's going to be baked into such a low price that if he ends up sustaining, they might run the wheels off. So there is a world where kind of he gets all the touches, or they get this view of trying to go with youth. Kind of needs to see what we do in preseason here. I'm kind of hedging this at the moment, thinking that Scatterbo is going to come out and be the elite back. I can see a world where that doesn't happen, which is why I'd be probably taking Travis Etienne at the cost, because people like me are really pricing him down, and people like me are really sort of saying he's not going to do a lot this year. And it's getting to the point where he could be a real value in draft. So yeah, just keep an eye on that one. Still high Brian Robinson Jr. again, always tends to deliver quite well here. And then we're getting into sort of these backs that aren't going to be doing a great deal. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Why is I'm about get myself all confused here? I'm talking about Tootin as well. So I actually expect there to be sort of a bit of a mixed backfield here of like a three-headed monster. Sorry, I've got myself really muddled here. Not a good thing for a live stream, but it's been a really long day. So yeah, you got Tootin and ETN, and then I also have the third back in there getting quite a bit of work. So it is going to be a bit of a mess in that backfield. So I am expecting it just to get a bit messy. You see here I've got some points for Jonathan Brooks. This will come out on Mondays. These were done a little bit before his injury news. So here you've got, sort of I expect kind of trying to find the hot hand here, maybe in Jacksonville, that I would be expecting ETN to kind of start out, but maybe Tootin starts to show his worth. But these will get a little revision again as we get into preseason. Maybe Sean Tucker jumps up a little bit more. You're just trying to find in this little tier here players who might just jump up and get a little bit more work than kind of expected. And you see I go all the way down to these kind of running backs who are getting less than 10 points over a season. So I go really deep. Next up is the wide receivers. I've got Chase and Jefferson leading out there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is going to have a really, really good year with Puka Nacua and CeeDee Lamb sort of rounding off my top 5. There shouldn't be any really big surprises here. Maybe people looking at Mike Evans, but his touchdown efficiency just keeps him up there quite considerably. Nico Collins, bit of target competition there. I think Drake London, if he stays injury free, could really kick on this year as well. Expecting again T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr. These guys to have good seasons as well. Devontae Adams, I think, is going to get plenty of workload in LA. I'm not worried about that. And then, yeah, we're starting to get into the sort of these stable tiers. Yeah, a bit worried about some of the news of Terry McLaurin. He's not too happy. Mario Harrison Jr., I think, kicks on a little bit, but I still think he's going to just be short of that 1,000-yard metric. I do think he gets more touchdowns this year. Again, we're looking at Deebo Samuel, I think, will be effective. Jerry Jeudy, these guys are going to get the ball a bit more. Chris Godwin, steady as ever, around about that 200 fantasy points here. I am a little skeptical on DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to take a bit of a nosedive downwards this year. And you see here, I got Travis Etienne. It's a bit out of whack here because his IDP stats here are kind of floating him up a little bit. That gives him a few more points. So if your league has IDP scoring, then that's going to weight him a little bit more. But this is, I kind of put some IDP numbers in, and then this has changed his number, but this is where I actually have him ranked without those IDP numbers. So yeah, you're starting to get a good idea. You see here, I'm still favoring guys like Rashid Shaheed. I think he could be used and utilized quite heavily in the Saints offense. Cooper Kupp, I expect to have a pretty decent season. So these guys, you see day to day, I think they're going to get some good work. You see Chris Olave quite low. I just think with the Warriors of the concussions and things, I'm just a little skeptical he's going to miss time. So that's why I have him just a little bit lower. He just doesn't have that sort of break speed. So you see I have him getting more yards than Rashid. Again, having more receptions than Rashid, but it's the touchdowns where I just think he's going to get dinked a little bit here as the Saints are in a bit of a rebuild. I think Juwan Jennings is in for a good year. Ricky Pearsall's going to have a bit of a mini breakout. Stephon Diggs is going to hold water. I think this is a pretty sort of standard list. I don't think anything in here is too crazy, I think, although I'd be interested to get thoughts. Guy I'm sort of keeping an eye on here, Cedric Tillman is a guy I think could break out from this number and shoot himself way up into this sort of level quite easily if he starts to break away from the rest of the pack. There's a few guys in here that I think you could look at. Mike Wilson, I think, is a guy who could potentially do that. Mike Williams is another guy. Potentially, Rashad Bateman, he got a new contract. These are guys that could potentially start to shoot up a little bit more. Again, these two to watch here, Quentin Johnston and Emeka Egbuka, these guys might just start to catch lightning and go up from there. So some really interesting players in these sort of tiers where you can pick up some really, really good values. And then we move to the tight ends. I have Brock Bowers finishing top of the pile this year, just ahead of Trey McBride and than George Kittle. These two are kind of in my tier one on their own, and George Kittle, followed by Laporta, Kelsey, and Juku the next tier down. There got the Hawkinson, Warren, Andrews, Engram, and then you got this next to Smith. Does he get traded? That would worry me. Ferguson, Kraft, of course, Loveland a little bit lower. I just think year one, I think he could have a really good path, but I think it's just taking a bit of time to get up to speed. So he's in this kind of mix of, if I had to look at this tier here of Tucker Kraft to K. Dotton, even if I include Brenton Strange, the guy I would want in this tier is Corsten Loveland. He has by far the most upside. I'm just not really baking it into his projections right now, but he's the guy I would probably be looking to have here. So one to definitely keep an eye on here. So these are where I'm just sort of currently sitting. There's a few little changes I've got to make just over the last couple of weeks, but you're starting to get a feel for kind of where I'm thinking these players are going to go. It's a huge amount of work to project all these players and all their offenses and what they're going to do. And you can start to go down. You're starting to see the DL numbers in here. So I got DL edge rusher in here. So you can start to see the edge rush numbers, linebackers, cornerbacks, and safety. So there's quite a lot of work. You can see here, 840 different players. There's actually over 900 players. I thought 1,000 didn't quite get a high. 840 players in here. So it's a lot of work in here going into all these lines and being able to go through and really sort of analyze it. Then we've got my kickers here that kind of tell you where you go. Depends on your league and kicker scoring. And then the same goes for your DSTs as well. So lots of data to capture in here. Again, you can go ahead and just change all the scoring in here and have a look and have a play. Have a play with all this sort of stuff. I haven't done sort of kick with punt return yards. I might bake that in, might not. It depends how the summer goes. If I do, you can start to bake that in there for funky leagues as well. But yeah, you can go through, have a play. This is good for your BFFL leagues, good for your IDP, good for Scott Fish Bowl, good for all those leagues. So if you're in lots of charity leagues, remember mine isn't really based on best ball. It's just based on what I think is going to happen in the season. So, your best ball strategy's got to be baked in a little bit into these projections, but you are going to be able to go through and just start to have a play with these. I just ask that you make your own copy. So you just go in the file and make a copy, and you just make your own copy. Don't overwrite this list. This is what's called a public copy. So this is available for everybody who accesses the playbook and buys the playbook or is a Patreon, and they can make a copy, and you can do whatever you want to this sheet and play along. So it just gives you a bit of food for thought as to what I'm thinking, where I'm at. Again, some little bit of tweaks to be made. There always is, and I will endeavor to try and update this sort of every couple of weeks. So you're going to have some time to just follow along with me, see how the projections go, and hopefully you find this stuff particularly useful. And I find this stuff fascinating, and I hope you do too. And you can use this data to really sort of help you drive home and win a league in 2025. That's the hope. That's the goal. We all love winning leagues, and I'm here to make sure that we can do that sort of as best as possible. And if there's ever stuff you kind of want to see, then I'm happy to go through all of that as well. One of the things I would say is really cool in here is I'm just trying to find the file now. Here we go. So I'm going to pull this up as well, so you've got it. So let's just open it up. Is the touchdown regression numbers. So let's just move it onto the other screen. So here is using my model. Again, I've created a public copy of this, so it keeps the algorithms a little bit proprietary. But here, and the reason I've done this on two sides is so that you can create different filters, and it's easy to see. I kind of only really interested in these kind of numbers here. So these are touchdowns expected, achieved over expected, and you got positive and minus numbers here. You can see here it's got the graph underneath that kind of breaks down this line. And I go into context of James Cook and Jameer Gibbs in the book. And again, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Devon Chan, again, all massively underexpected. So there's some work to be done. Of course, Najee Harris is in a different offense. And again, we've got the same when it comes into your wide receivers. Again, some of these guys absolutely cooking over expected. And again, I created some charts here so you can start to break these down. Guys like Mike Evans cook over the chart every year. So for him, I'm not overly worried about these numbers. But you can start to really drill in. It's got all the statistical numbers from last year, and I do tight ends as well. So you get a really good feel of these guys and where they play. Those tight ends are relatively flat, except for a guy called Mark Andrews and Taysom Hill. These guys are massively over expected. And you look at how bad Trey McBride was in the inefficiency column, and Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers. These guys should all get more touchdowns next year. That's what we would expect to see. So we should hopefully see that. So another really cool feature in terms of the playbook, you buy the playbook, you get access to all this data, really start to break down, crunch this down, and look at opportunities and efficiencies. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Where can we find some real value in there to go ahead and exploit and find a difference in the market? And that's this is all the kind of stuff I've been doing for years. We talk about players who are undervalued. This is where we're finding these. So last thing I'll show you really quickly from the book is this. This is by PAS rankings. So this is where I streamed players last year who finished above the stream, who finished below the stream number. So here you can see guys who finished above or below these stream numbers, and you can see their efficiency numbers right here. And these are points per game. So this is how much every single week. So these you can value each position and see where they are. Lots of guys maybe just finishing a little bit above the stream, but less than a point per game is not a lot, versus all the guys here who finish well below the stream from the top performers. Same with wide receivers. There wasn't actually that many wide receivers that crushed the stream last year. Actually, only 3 broke it by more than a point. So it shows you that these positions were easily streamable versus the ones that were a little bit more difficult to stream. Again, tight end, only George Kittle points per game really sort of broke the stream model a little bit. And again, you see with kickers, why I say don't draft kickers is because I drafted a pretty strong kicker. I drafted the kicker 1, DST 1 last year from my streaming options. And so as a result, was able to really bring these home. And it meant, look, on the DST, nobody finished ahead of the stream last year because I beat the stream. By the way, if you're asking why some players beat the stream, they probably played less games. And also my stream doesn't have a bye week. So that's why they have a tendency to finish a little bit higher. So that's why I do points per game. It means that you get that sort of breakdown that's really fair and clear. So you'll be able to break down. You'll see here why you don't draft a DST, why you don't draft a kicker, and why tight ends aren't all that special. Despite the fact there are a few guys that will sort of break havoc. And then again, wide receivers, you see sort of how flat this position is. But then even here, you're starting to see these little tier breaks from here, points per game. So it's really good to go and look at this. Same with wide receiver, running back. It really drops off quickly. You know, you're talking about guys like Travis Etienne, 6.5 points per game behind Tank Bigsby, 6.2 games behind points behind per game per week. You know, you're starting to see these guys and think, okay, maybe it's worth reaching for a guy like Brian Robinson Jr., for example, because he is going to do so much for your team. And again, quarterback, just seeing where all these sort of splits are. So gives you some good depth, some good insight to really dig into all of this. And all of these are available with the purchase of the Fantasy Football Playbook. The QR code is in the back, so just feel free to have a scan of that and you'll be able to pull these up. Please save and make your own copies. Don't write over these copies. They're available for everyone who gets that. We'll be doing some leagues as well. So hope it's just added a bit of extra context. Hope you've just had a quick look at my projections, look at them and study them in a bit more detail. Really keen to get your thoughts on the book as well. Please do get in touch and let us know what you think. Give us some thoughts, perspectives, some good pieces in there that I think everyone will enjoy. But that's going to do it for this week. Thank you very much for signing up. Apologies, it's been a bit of a hit and miss time at the moment, but I promise you, I'm lining up guests for the next month. Next week, we've got Joe Pisapia coming on from Fantasy Pros talking about the Black Book. We're going to give some Black Books away as well. the following week, we've got Jim Coventry talking about offenses and differences in play callers. It's a really important show as we set up for the year. So I'm looking forward to doing that with him. Bob Lung's going to come on and talk about consistency. And then I'm hoping we're going to get some other special guests on as well, and friends of ours, as we get into the season and we start tooling up, shaping up, and getting ready to bring ships home. This is the time of year now that fantasy starts to feel a bit real. 55 days until the Hall of Fame game. So enjoy it. Enjoy your weekend, wherever it is that you're doing. I'm certainly going to enjoy it. Last weekend of my 30s, but thank you so much for all your support. Please do go out and buy the book. Please do let me know what you think. Please tweet out that you've bought the book. It'd be really good. Write a review on Amazon. I can't tell you how important that is to just help us drive sales and get up into making it a third-time Amazon bestseller. So please help with that. Love and appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking to you all next week. But until then, Rush Nation, don't forget, as always, keep rushing.